Hey, Mike here. I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Dark Poutine early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime.
Welcome back to Dark Poutine. I am Mike Brown.
And I'm Matthew.
You are Matthew. How are you?
I am good.
Yeah?
I got a late flight that was late and then couldn't get taxis and all kinds of stuff. So I got home at like 1:30 this morning.
Oh, gross.
I know.
No, well.
I was in London, Ontario, and I want to do a shout out to Paige, a new listener that I met this past weekend in London.
Is she a new listener because you told her to listen to the show?
I tell everyone I meet to listen to this show.
Yeah, me too.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during the Dark Poutine podcast are solely those of the producer and do not necessarily represent those of Curious Cast, its affiliate, Global News, nor their parent company, Chorus Entertainment.
Dark Poutine is not for the faint of heart or squeamish. Listener discretion is strongly advised. We're not experts on the topics we present, nor are we journalists. We're two ordinary Canadians chatting about crime and the dark side of history. Let's get to it. Put on your toque, grab yourself a double and a Nanaimo bar. It's time to scarf down some Dark Poutine.
You are responsible for obtaining and maintaining at your own cost all equipment needed to listen to Dark Poutine. Dark Poutine can be addictive. Side effects may include, but not be limited to, pausing and questioning the system, elevated heart rate, pondering humanity, odd looks from colleagues as you laugh out loud at work, family members not into true crime worrying about you. Positive side effects may include some perspectives and opinions that you disagree with, as well as some wokeness and empathy. If you don't think Dark Poutine is for you, consult your doctor immediately.
Tim Bosma was a 32-year-old family man from Ancaster, Ontario, who went missing in May 2013 after taking two men for a test drive of his truck. They were later identified as Dellen Millard, 27, heir to a Canadian aviation empire, and Mark Smich, 24, a drug dealer and aspiring rapper. The following investigation would uncover a disturbing web of deceit, violence, and the cold-blooded nature of Millard and Smich. As we explore the details of this case, we'll set the stage for the equally harrowing events that would unfold in parts 2 and 3 of this series. The murders of Laura Babcock, 23, Millard's ex-girlfriend in 2012, and Wayne Millard, Dellen's father, also in 2012. Join us as we delve into the chilling stories of these two killers and the trail of devastation they left in their wake. This is Dark Poutine episode 317, Shadows of Deception, Part 1, The Murder of Tim Bosma. Timothy Hank Bosma was born at Hamilton's St. Joseph's Hospital on August 12, 1980, at 6:48 a.m. to his father's joyful exclamations. Tim tipped the scales at 8 pounds 3 ounces, growing up in a lively household with his parents Hank and Mary and 3 sisters. Tim was the cherished only boy. Jen, 6 years older, and Michelle, 4 years older, were his big sisters. Another sister, Stephanie, arrived 2 years after Tim was born. His childhood was characterized by a close-knit relationship with his siblings and a spirited demeanor, often found playing with his sisters and the neighborhood girls until he began school. Known for his strikingly pale complexion and bright blue eyes, his light duck fluff blonde hair made him easily recognizable and much loved among family and friends.
You mentioned he tipped the scales at 8 pounds 3 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to compete with him.
Right.
But I was a whopping 9.5 pounds when I was born.
Oh my goodness. So probably half of that is your head.
Actually, it's my hands and feet. Have you seen how big my hands and my feet are?
You know what that means. Big shoes and big gloves.
I know. I have like hobbit feet.
Yeah. The family lived in Ancaster, Ontario. Ancaster, one of Ontario's oldest European communities, was established in 1793. Before European settlement, the area was inhabited by indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee and Mississaugas, who utilized the land for its abundant resources and strategic location. The community grew around the power of Ancaster Creek, evolving from a small milling center to a prosperous town known for its agriculture and mills. Despite significant growth, Ancaster has retained its historical charm through preserved buildings and traditional events, maintaining its unique identity through the centuries. In 2001, Ancaster was amalgamated into Hamilton, a move designed to streamline governance and improve regional service delivery. And today, Ancaster blends its rich heritage with the suburban lifestyle of a district within the larger city of Hamilton. So Hamilton, founded in 1816, has developed into a major Canadian industrial hub, renowned for steel production, Steel Town. The integration of Ancaster into Hamilton has fostered a symbolic relationship marrying Ancaster's historical and residential allure with Hamilton's urban and industrial strengths. This amalgamation allows Ancaster to leverage Hamilton's extensive urban infrastructure while contributing distinct historical and residential qualities.
Ancaster is a really lovely town.
I've never been. I've been to Hamilton, but I might have been to Ancaster and just not known it.
Yeah, we used to hang out in Ancaster. It's just nice. But, our episode, The Hamilton Torsometer, How Could You, Mrs. Dick?
Yeah.
Actually took place in Ancaster. Mr. Dick's body is found near, I think it was Sherman Falls.
That's right.
In Ancaster, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tim Bosma's playful nature persisted as he grew, often engaging in practical jokes that reflected his father's influence. Before transferring to Ancaster High School to pursue more trade-oriented courses, he attended Calvin Christian School, where his father was also a student. This change aligned with his father's background in HVAC trade, which Tim soon adopted as his own career path. Tim's fitness and size, 6 foot 1 inches tall, made his physical work easy. Demonstrating a robust work ethic and his mother's frugality, Tim quickly moved into the adult world of work and property management. By 21, he owned his first home on East 43rd Street on Hamilton Mountain, managing it as a rental property while living in the basement apartment. His commitment to family was evident when he temporarily moved back home to allow his sister and her husband to use his house, reflecting his generosity.
I've been on that street. It's just it's a few blocks away from where I went to school for 3 years.
Okay. It sounds like he was a really kind guy. Like, I mean, not everybody moves out of a place to let your sister move into it.
No, exactly. And I have to point this out, though. Hamilton Mountain, it's the Niagara Escarpment. It ain't a mountain. And now that I live in Vancouver, I laugh at Hamilton, quote, mountain.
Well, it's like the North and South Mountains in Nova Scotia. They're hills, as are the ski hills Wentworth and Martock. They're just like little bumps. Outside of work, Tim's life was filled with adventurous hobbies, including riding dirt bikes and snowmobiles, often accompanied by laughter-filled gatherings with friends. These gatherings were a testament to his social nature, where bonfires and humorous antics were commonplace. Despite a busy social and professional life, Tim prioritized family and was particularly devoted to his nieces and nephews, always ready to stir up fun and laughter. As he matured, his role as the prankster remained, endearing him further to those around him, marking him as a vibrant and integral part of his community. Tim was appreciated by those close to him for his mischievous personality and infectious crazy laugh. This lightheartedness was a hallmark of his character, often revealed in the playful teasing he enjoyed with family and friends. His family was the core of Tim Bosma's life. He was a devoted and loving father to his 2-year-old daughter, actively involved in her upbringing and daily activities, often including the family's Great Dane, Ava. His dedication was evident in moments like attending swimming lessons and experiencing the milestone of changing his daughter's first diapers. Moments he approached with care and a bit of trepidation, indicative of his deep commitment and love. Bosma's relationship with his wife Charlene was one of mutual support and deep affection. He was described as a regular, average guy by Charlene, underscoring his role as a hardworking and loving husband who cherished the ordinary life they built together. His down-to-earth nature made him relatable and deeply valued within his community and among his peers. His playful spirit extended beyond his immediate family to his nieces and nephews with whom he loved to play and joke at family gatherings. This loving attitude was a source of joy and laughter, contributing to the warm memories cherished by those who knew him best. Overall, Tim Bosma's life was characterized by his love for his family, his joyous approach to life, and the simple, everyday moments he shared with those around him.
You look at the picture of this guy and what you're saying, and it just is so absolutely unfair that this guy was obviously a good man.
A good egg, yep.
A stand-up guy, a good egg, as we say on the show.
Yep.
And for his life to end this way is just so tragic and such a waste.
Yeah. In 2013, Tim wanted to get rid of his black 2007 Dodge Ram pickup, license plate 72672W, which was a lemon, according to a Vice News article. On April 28th, Charlene listed the truck for sale on Kijiji and Auto Trader. The ad read, "For sale by owner, a 2007 Dodge Power Ram 3500 diesel 4x4 pickup truck, 170,000 kilometers, mostly highway, 5.9-liter engine, extended cab, short box, gray cloth interior, new transmission, new brakes, price $24,000, address Ancaster, Ontario." The ad received some interest, and Tim agreed to allow two men to drive the truck on the evening of May 6, 2013. Tim answered the door and went outside with the pair. As he left around 9:20 p.m., Tim told Charlene he'd be right back. She watched as Tim climbed into the passenger seat of his truck. Charlene saw the strangers were two white males in their 20s. The taller individual was described as being around 6'1" and weighing between 170 and 180 pounds. He had short brown hair, appeared unshaven, and was dressed in jeans, an orange long-sleeve shirt, and running shoes. The shorter man stood about 5'9" to 5'10", with a small to medium build and dark hair. He was wearing a red hooded sweatshirt. The taller man drove, while the shorter man sat in the back seat as the truck pulled out of the Bosma family's driveway. The hours passed with no sign of Tim. Charlene began to worry and called his cell phone several times, receiving no answer, before contacting the Hamilton police to report her husband missing. She gave the police all the information she had. Knowing time was of the essence, early the next morning, Hamilton police issued a short press release describing Tim Bosma, his truck, and the two men he'd last been seen with. At a press conference on May 8, 2013, police explained that customers typically contact sellers on classified sites like Kijiji via email. However, Tim Bosma had listed his phone number in the classified ad, enabling direct contact. This meant police could not obtain information from the website's email records. Nonetheless, with the help of Apple, investigators extracted some details from Tim Bosma's iPhone before it was switched off or the battery died.
You know, one thing that Tim has left behind is hearing that, I'm like, oh, God, it's a lesson for me is if I ever try to sell something, to set up a specific email account for selling it and to be careful. I mean, it's such a shame that I'm learning this through the loss of Tim.
Yeah.
I never even thought of this. I just put my phone on something as well, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, for convenience kind of thing.
Yeah, and this poor guy, it's so I think let's all take that lesson.
Police also reported that two men matching the descriptions of those in Tim Bosma's disappearance test drove a truck in Toronto a day before Tim went missing. The truck's owner found their behavior suspicious and later reported this to the Toronto police. They'd walked to the location, a business within an industrial area, which was unusual. The Toronto man who'd encountered the pair noticed something unique about the first suspect, the taller man. He had the word ambition tattooed on his wrist with a box around it. The hunt for Tim Bosma and the apprehension of his abductors was Hamilton Police's largest operation in years. This massive effort involved at least 150 officers, primarily from Hamilton, demonstrating a significant display of the service's skills, training, and commitment of both officers and civilian staff. The investigation saw round-the-clock work from homicide detectives. Search and rescue operations were conducted on the ground and from the air, with canine and mounted units deployed. Divisional detectives took the lead early in the case, supported by a Marine unit on alert and forensic officers at various scenes. Commanders proactively allocated resources, while uniformed officers across the city were called to assist. Victim services were tasked with supporting Tim Bosma's family. According to Anne Brocklehurst's book, Dark Ambition, after Tim Bosma disappeared, his family and friends from the Ancaster Christian Reformed Church community and acquaintances mobilized to find him. They formed search parties to comb through fields and ditches until police intervened to preserve potential evidence. The search efforts were centralized in Tim Bosma's garage, which they used as a command center. Volunteers also launched a Find Tim Bosma Facebook page and distributed missing persons posters featuring his photo and truck details across the region from Toronto to Brantford. The mysterious nature of his disappearance fueled widespread rumors and speculation about possible criminal motives, such as involvement in drugs, organized crime, or financial troubles. However, none of these theories convincingly accounted for the peculiar circumstances of his abduction during the truck theft. Tim wasn't involved in any of that. On May 9th, at another press conference at Hamilton Police Headquarters, a tearful Charlene Bosma spoke, begging for Tim's safe return. Quote, "This does not feel like real life," Charlene Bosma said. "This only happens on TV and in movies. As you know," she continued, "I watched my husband drive away just after 9 o'clock Monday night. He smiled at me and said he'd be right back, and I have not seen him since. You're all aware that I saw the two men who took my husband. You have already been provided a description of these two individuals. I ask you that if you see anyone that closely matches this description of these men, to please call the police. You've seen pictures of Tim in his truck. Please, if you see Tim or the truck, contact police. My husband Tim is a loving father to our beautiful 2-year-old, and she needs her daddy back. His parents need their little boy back. All of our brothers and sisters want their brother back. We look forward to being able to put our arms around Tim and to tell him how much we love him. We hope and pray that today is the last day of this nightmare. It was just a truck. It's just a truck. You don't need him, but I do, and our daughter needs her daddy back. So please, let him come home. We need him to come home, and may God have mercy on you," Charlene said. "Tim is my husband. He is my partner, and he is my best friend. He is the love of my life and the father of my child." End quote.
Yeah, this is so heartbreaking. You know, while we think we can understand what she's going through,
yeah,
it's probably 1,000 times worse than we can even imagine.
I can't even begin to fathom. it. On Friday, May 10th, police announced that they found Tim Bosma's cell phone in an industrial area of Brantford. A search of the area turned up nothing else. However, they also received a tip that Tim's truck was seen in downtown Brantford just after 10 p.m. on Monday, the day he disappeared. Investigators asked businesses and individuals who may have security cameras or footage of the area from that night to turn it over to police. They determined that a burner phone had been used to contact Tim. The phone had been initially registered 3 months before Tim went missing, and records showed that it was used primarily around Etobicoke. This phone was registered under the name Lucas Bate, a pseudonym, as no individual with that name could be identified. The phone's registered address turned out to be a high school, adding another layer of mystery since no Lucas Bate was associated with that location. Dennis Araujo, who listed his 2006 black Dodge pickup on AutoTrader concurrently with Tim Bosma, also received a call from the same phone number registered under the name Lucas Bate. However, Araujo missed the call and could not reach anyone when he attempted to call back. In the days leading up to this, phone records show the Bate number had also contacted 2 other men in the Toronto area attempting to set up test drives of the trucks they had listed for sale online: Omar Palmili and Igor Tumimenko. Tumimenko gave 2 men who matched the descriptions of the suspects a test drive in his 2010 Dodge Ram on May 5th. But they did not purchase the truck.
Wow, these guys must feel so lucky that they didn't end up like poor Tim.
Yeah, it's crazy. On May 6, there were a series of calls between Tim Bosma's phone and the phone registered under the name Lucas Bate. Initially, at 5:13 p.m., Bosma's phone made a call to the Bate phone. This was followed by a call from the Bate phone to Bosma's phone at 7:22, and another call from the Bate phone to Bosma's at 9:04 p.m. Investigators also discovered that throughout the 3 months of its usage, the phone had pinged numerous times at a hangar belonging to Millard Heir at the airport in Waterloo, Ontario. The registered owner of the hangar was Dellen Millard, 27, who since his father's death a year earlier was the heir to the Millard Heir empire. Police pulled Millard's cell phone records, compared them to the Bate phone, and saw how they lined up perfectly. Millard's phone was always with the Bate phone when it was on. Millard also had an ambition tattoo on his wrist. He was arrested on May 10th and charged on May 11th with forcible confinement and theft over $5,000. More after a quick break.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
And we are back. Matthew, thoughts so far?
What are my thoughts? My thoughts are that because I know what you wrote, and I started making all kinds of notes. My thoughts are that you're going to talk about these two losers who murdered Tim and the other person involved in trying to hide evidence. Mm-hmm. And there's so much I want to say, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let you give the information. I want to focus on Tim and his family because I don't even want to talk about these people.
Yep, fair enough. Yeah, we'll let what they did speak for itself kind of thing. The chief suspect, Dellen Millard, was born on August 30th, 1985, into a family deeply rooted in the Canadian aviation industry. He was the heir to Millard Heir, as we mentioned, an aviation company founded by his grandfather, Carl Millard, in 1963. The company initially operated as a cargo carrier, but later shifted to aircraft maintenance and servicing. Growing up in Toronto, Dellen was exposed to the world of aviation from a very young age, spending considerable time at the family-owned hangars and learning about the mechanics and business of airplanes. He became a pilot very young. In 1999, at 14, Dellen Millard made headlines by becoming the youngest Canadian to fly solo in an airplane and a helicopter on the same day. Educated in private schools, Dellen was known for his intelligence and ambition. He inherited his father's entrepreneurial spirit and was involved in several business ventures from a young age, including attempts to expand the scope of Millard Heir's operations. Dellen was often described as charismatic and popular among his peers. He was also known for his love of cars and mechanics, a passion that extended beyond airplanes. Dellen took over Millard Heir's operations after his father, Wayne Millard, who had taken charge of the company following Carl Millard's death, passed away in 2012, dying by apparent suicide. Under Dellen's leadership, the company underwent significant changes, including opening a new hangar at the Waterloo International Airport, which was intended to transition the business from aviation maintenance to a full-service operation, catering to the needs of private pilots and corporate clients. Apart from his professional life, Dellen was known for his adventurous spirit and love of the outdoors. He was an avid skydiver and often participated in car rallies and other motorsports, showcasing his passion for thrill-seeking activities. Despite his affluent background and active social life, those who knew him described him as approachable and down-to-earth, with a tendency to push the boundaries in his personal and professional endeavors. Millard was not talking to the police. Without his help, investigators would have to piece together what happened to Tim Bosma and his truck using the evidence they gathered and identify other suspects through other means. On Sunday, May 12th, Mother's Day, Tim Bosma's mother, Mary, made a statement at another press conference. Quote, "Even though there's been an arrest, he is still not home with us," Mary Bosma said, her voice shaking as she made her plea to the media. "My heart is broken. I love him so much. We just want him home," she said. Additionally, she expressed her Mother's Day wish, quote, "to have him home again with his wife, daughter, and other relatives," end quote. Adding to the evidence against Dellen Millard, investigators found Tim Bosma's truck stashed inside a trailer at the home of Millard's mother in the Toronto suburb of Kleinburg. When examined, the truck had Bosma's blood inside, later confirmed by DNA, a spent bullet casing, gunshot residue, and the front passenger window had been broken out. Millard had made arrangements to disguise the truck's identity by having it repainted and repaired in an auto body shop which he frequented. He also attempted to move potential evidence, giving a toolbox to an associate that analysis later revealed contained gunshot residue. In what appeared to some people an effort to distance themselves from Tim Bosma's disappearance and ensure their users' safety, on May 13th, Kijiji released a statement about the incident in a blog post titled Online Safety. The post read, quote, "Our thoughts are with the family and community of a missing Ancaster man during this very difficult time. Kijiji has been in contact with the Hamilton police and has provided them with information that may be helpful in their investigation. We confirmed to the police that the ad posted by Mr. Bosma on Kijiji did not feature personal contact information, nor did it receive any replies, which determines the incident did not occur as a result of the ad posting on Kijiji. We understand the Hamilton police have made an arrest in the case, and moving forward, we will continue to assist the police in their investigation. The safety of our users is a top priority for Kijiji. We work with local and international law enforcement agencies so our users can connect in a safe online community to engage in commerce and trading locally." The post also included tips on staying safe while using Kijiji.
You know, I don't think necessarily you described it as, distancing themselves. I actually think...
Well, some people thought that.
Yeah, but the people at Kijiji were probably horrified that this happened to Tim.
Of course they were. Of course they were.
And they did the right thing. They let people know they were helping, right, in any way they could. And, if I owned Kijiji, I'd have done the same thing. Exactly what they did, right? I would have helped the police, and then I would have put tips on how to be safe.
Yeah.
Blaming somebody like Kijiji is like, if somebody agrees to meet somebody over the telephone, are you going to blame the telephone company? No, right?
Right. A day later, on May 14th, to the devastation of all involved, the police announced the discovery of Tim Bosma's remains. The investigation centered around properties connected to Dellen Millard, including a rural field he purchased for $835,000 in heir in 2011, with significant police presence and search activity. Millard, who had no previous criminal record, was subsequently charged with first-degree murder. His lawyer claimed the alleged killing was, quote, completely out of character for the young CEO and investor, describing him as humble, balanced, and good-natured. As the investigation expanded, police warned of more suspects and charges to follow. On May 20th, 2013, police arrested Mark Smich, a 24-year-old man from Oakville. He was known to locals as an aspiring rapper who often expressed his life experiences and aspirations through his music. Smich's interests in the arts extended to painting and writing, which were other creative outlets he pursued. Despite his artistic inclinations, he faced several personal and professional challenges that stymied potential career development. Smich's life was marked by a series of run-ins with the law, primarily related to minor drug offenses and petty thefts, which suggested struggles with substance abuse and financial instability. These legal issues contributed to a somewhat tumultuous lifestyle, impacting his personal relationships and living situations. Despite these setbacks, Smich maintained close ties with a small circle of friends who shared similar interests in music and art. Financially, Smich was often reliant on odd jobs and the support of friends and family. He did not have steady employment, compounding his struggles with legal issues and personal stability. His relationship with family was complex, marked by support and strain due to his lifestyle choices. In his community, Smich was sometimes seen as a troubled yet talented individual who hadn't yet found a way to fully realize his potential or break away from the cycles of instability that characterized his life before his arrest. His involvement with Dellen Millard, stemming from shared interests and social circles, eventually led to a deeper association that would have significant implications for his future. Cell phone data placed Millard and Smich's phones traveling from the Greater Toronto Area through Oakville and finally pinging near Tim Bosma's home in Ancaster on the night of May 6th around the time of the test drive. Their phones were shut off immediately after, going inactive for just a short distance from the residence while Bosma was inside the truck with them. Hours later, surveillance footage from the Millard Air aviation hangar near Waterloo captured Tim Bosma's missing truck arriving and parking outside, towing a large trailer carrying an incinerator, dubbed the Eliminator. The footage also showed the truck and trailer being followed closely by an SUV similar to the GMC Yukon owned by Millard. One of Millard's employees at the hangar, Arthur Jennings, saw what appeared to be Tim's truck inside in the following days and took photos of its vehicle identification number, VIN, after recognizing that it could be the vehicle belonging to the missing man based on widespread media coverage.
Good for him. It's great that he had the awareness and the wherewithal to A, notice, and B, do that.
In the days after Tim Bosma's disappearance, Dellen Millard made numerous comments to his associates like his girlfriend, Christina Nudga, roommate Andrew Michalski, and his mechanic, indicating that he'd stolen a truck and the owner was dead. Smich also privately told his girlfriend, Marlena Meneses, that he had been present when Millard stole Tim Bosma's truck and that Millard had shot and killed Bosma, stating, "He's gone, gone, gone." Incriminating evidence began to mount, including Tim Bosma's DNA being discovered on the incinerator found at the Millard Air hangar property, as well as on a pair of gloves in Millard's possession when he was arrested on May 10th. Forensic analysis of burned bone fragments inside the incinerator determined they were from a human male around Bosma's age. The disappearance of Dellen Millard's ex-girlfriend, Laura Babcock, also bubbled to the surface at this time, as her last phone calls were to Dellen Millard's phone on July 3, 2012. There were concerted efforts made to search for her remains on Millard's properties as well. None were found. However, while the police and Crown were building the case against Millard and Smich for Tim Bosma's murder, both men were already the prime suspects in Laura Babcock's disappearance. They were also having another look at the apparent suicide of Millard's father, Wayne. Dellen inherited quite a tidy sum after his father's death, and money is often a motive for murder, as we all know. Tim Bosma's family and friends packed a memorial service for the slain husband and father on May 22, 2013, held in the same banquet hall where Tim Bosma and his wife celebrated their wedding. Friends and family shared heartfelt memories. His friend Gary Kickert recalled how Bosma's firm approach helped him to overcome alcoholism, while his sister, Michelle Denbach, and his father, Hank Bosma, fondly shared memories of his infectious laughter and playful teasing, particularly with the children at family gatherings. His stepfather, Stephen Zylstra, reminisced about Bosma's mischievous smile, and his father-in-law, Louis Veenstra, praised his nurturing role as a father. The service, led by Pastor John Veenstra, celebrated Bosma's life, emphasizing his love for family and his everyman persona without idealizing him as a saint.
There's a good list of Dutch names there, Mike.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. Southwestern Ontario has a really big Dutch community, and actually my one aunt and my one uncle married into Dutch families. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I'm happy about in seeing those names is, if they're anything like my extended family, Tim's family would have had a lot of love and support at this hard time from the Dutch community, mm-hmm. right? The Dutch are very good at
taking care of their own,
stepping up. Mm-hmm. And not just their own, but others
in the community.
Yeah, stepping up and being on the front line of helping. That's my experience of my Dutch family and neighbors anyway.
According to the Hamilton Spectator newspaper, following Tim Bosma's disappearance, his wife Charlene faced profound grief, particularly feeling the weight of each passing month. She described the agony of marking each new month without Tim, a pain accentuated by significant dates like Valentine's Day and their wedding anniversary. Even small reminders like a pet fish Tim had bought for their daughter or his belongings around the house deepened her sorrow on such occasions. Charlene took steps to preserve Tim's memory for their daughter, who was 3 at the time and often cried out for her father during nighttime leg cramps, a pain Tim also experienced as a child. Charlene compiled scrapbooks and collected stories about Tim from friends to help her daughter remember her father. The Bosma family, including Tim's parents, Hank and Mary, navigated their grief through daily reminders and public sympathy, which often felt overwhelming. They found comfort in their faith and the support of their community, evident in gestures like receiving flowers and gift cards from friends. Hank and Mary's grief was palpable in every aspect of their lives, from daily routines to family gatherings at Tim's gravesite, where they celebrated his life with symbolic gestures like releasing balloons. The family also established a charity in Tim's memory to help other families affected by homicide, emphasizing their commitment to honoring his legacy beyond their personal loss. These ongoing support and remembrance activities reflected their efforts to cope with the tragedy and keep Tim's memory alive.
You know, Mike, it sounds like a cliche, but Tim's murder really underscores this as fact. Mm-hmm. When someone like Tim gets murdered, it is really deeply felt amongst many people, like those ripples that go out of grief, right?
Yeah.
And the pain the Bosma family had was palpable, and I'm sure it's not gone away.
No, definitely not. On April 10th, 2014, Christina Nudga, Dellen Millard's girlfriend at the time of Tim Bosma's murder, was charged with being an accessory after the fact. She gave a lengthy statement to police after her arrest, admitting to her involvement in the aftermath of Bosma's killing. Nudga confessed that on May 9, 2013, just days after Tim Bosma went missing, she was with Millard and helped transport the trailer containing Bosma's truck from Millard's aviation hangar to his mother's home in Kleinburg, Ontario. Nudga returned to the trailer in the following days and wiped down her fingerprints to cover her tracks. When Millard was arrested on May 10th, he had latex gloves with him. It was through forensic testing that Tim Bosma's DNA was found on the outside of one of these gloves. Nudga admitted to police that she had worn the same gloves while assisting Millard on May 9th as he was removing potential evidence from the hangar related to Tim Bosma's murder. Through her statement, Nudga implicated herself as being aware of the crime and taking steps alongside Dellen Millard in the days immediately following to help conceal and destroy evidence linking him to Bosma's disappearance and death. In 2016, Dellen Millard and Mark Smich went to trial for Tim Bosma's murder. The Crown alleged that Millard and Smich had planned for more than a year to steal a truck, kill its owner, and then incinerate the body. A forensic expert testified that the remains found inside the incinerator on Millard's farm, while confirmed to be human, were mostly reduced to ashes. This extreme burning destroys any possible DNA evidence. The limited bone fragments and partial tooth recovered were too damaged to identify as Bosma's through DNA or dental records positively. The forensic expert stated that the remains were insufficient to determine a cause of death. A forensic dentist corroborated this, saying the heat-damaged tooth fragment could not be definitely linked to Bosma due to the inability to extract DNA. Separately, police testimony described finding a digital video recorder, DVR, hidden in a closet at the home of Christina Nudga, Millard's girlfriend, during a 2014 search. Prosecutors allege Millard took this DVR from his aviation hangar and gave it to Nudga to hold, claiming it contained video footage of Millard and Smich at the hangar around 1:30 a.m. on May 7th, around the time prosecutors believed Tim Bosma's body was being incinerated on the property after he was murdered. As forensic evidence from the remains proved insufficient to conclusively tie to Tim Bosma, this potential video evidence was a key piece of the prosecution's case, tying the two accused to the crime scene. On the stand, Mark Smich claimed that Dellen Millard was responsible for shooting, killing, and burning Tim Bosma. The cross-examination of Smich by Dellen Millard's lawyer, Nadir Sachak, took center stage at the murder trial. Sachak's questioning zeroed in on Smich's testimony about the critical events the night Tim Bosma was killed. A key point of contention was who pulled the trigger and shot the father of one. Smich maintained under oath that he was not inside Bosma's truck when Dellen Millard fired the fatal shots. However, this directly contradicted previous testimony about text messages Millard sent to his girlfriend at the time, which implied Smich was the one who shot Bosma. With both co-accused blaming the other for the actual killing, Sachak grilled Smich relentlessly on the discrepancies and worked to poke holes in his version of that fateful night's events. To paint Smich as the killer, Millard's lawyer displayed some of Mark Smich's lyrics for the jury, including lines like, "Get slapped with my gun hand, motherfucker," spelled with a PH, "leave you dead with some contraband, motherfucker," and, quote, "My 380 is no stranger. When I'm angered, you're in danger," end quote. Oh, God.
Why do people celebrate music like this? I just don't get it.
I don't know. Paul Bernardo was a rapper, too. They're all these, like the murdery rap turds.
Kids need better heroes, man.
Right. Well, these two are like grown kids, you know?
Anyway. And what I love is like white middle-class suburban kids trying to be all gangsta.
Yeah, it's silly.
There's nothing so pathetic, right?
No, it's silly. Sachak pressed Smich on whether he understood slapped to be street slang for killing someone, which Smich denied. When Smich claimed the lyrics were simply an artistic expression which had nothing to do with reality, Sachak questioned how realistic his defense was given the violent imagery. The prosecutor also showed the jury a video recording of Smich performing one of his raps, allowing them to directly access the aggressive content and delivery for themselves as potential insight into Smich's mindset and capacity for violence. Marlena Meneses, Mark Smich's girlfriend, was a key prosecution witness. She testified that after Bosma's disappearance, Smich told her, quote, "He told me that Mr. Bosma was gone. He said that Dell, Millard, murdered him and, quote, that he shot him," end quote. Meneses claimed, quote, "I believe Smich told me that they burned him, but admitted, quote, I didn't want to know anything," end quote. She recalled urging Smich to come clean and go to the police about Bosma's murder. Meneses stated that Smich told her that he wrapped the murder weapon in duct tape and buried it somewhere in a forest. She described Smich's closeness with Millard, quote, "Mark cared for Dellen more than any other person. He was in love with him," end quote. Meneses overheard Dellen and Mark discuss stealing a truck beforehand, but failed to stop them. On May 6th, she spoke to Smich saying, quote, "I was very scared. I knew that they were going to steal a truck," end quote. After their arrest, Smich yelled at her, telling her not to say anything he had told her about Tim Bosma. Contrarily, Millard's lawyer argued that it was Smich who accidentally shot Bosma while attempting to steal his truck on a nearby highway. However, the judge instructed the jury of 7 men and 7 women, 2 were alternates, to dismiss Millard's narrative as it lacked evidential support. The judge, Justice Andrew Goodman, clarified that there was no evidence to suggest the shooting occurred on Highway 403 or that it was accidental.
So the lawyer gave it the good old, it was an accident try, did he?
No, they all do. Yep.
When they do that, though, it really smacks of desperation. When a lawyer does that, it was an accident. You know, they're like grasping for straws at that point.
Yeah. Justice Goodman further explained that both Millard and Smich could be convicted of murder regardless of who fired the shot if it was proven that the other had assisted or encouraged the act. He also noted the absence of reliable evidence regarding the exact circumstances of the shooting, including the time of death or positions of the shooter and the deceased. Ultimately, the jury was tasked with determining the fate of each accused separately, considering charges ranging from not guilty to first-degree murder, second-degree murder, or manslaughter. On June 13, 2016, the jury was sequestered and began their deliberations. 4 days later, there was a verdict. Tim Bosma's family smiled and cried tears of relief when Millard and Smich were found guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict triggered celebrations both inside the courtroom and on the streets outside. Charlene Bosma later spoke to the crowd outside the courtroom. Here's some audio as recorded by Global News.
So, today has been a very long-awaited day for our families. For over 3 years, we have waited for justice for Tim. For 3 years, we have been in and out of this courthouse, forced to look at and breathe in the same space with the utter depths of depravity in our society. We have had to endure being near the two men that walked down my driveway on May 6, 2013, and took away the bright lights in our lives that was Tim. It is their own unspeakable evil acts that have taken away their freedom, while saying it is unfair. What is unfair is that now that this chapter is over, we have to truly begin building our lives. What is unfair is that regardless of all that has transpired in the courtroom today, one thing will never change for us. There is one absolute constant for us. This does not bring Tim back. And he will still never come home. For Tim's murderers, their life sentence begins now, and ours began over 3 years ago when they murdered Tim. That being said, although we endure a life sentence without Tim, we have learned to collectively laugh again, to smile, and embrace what we still have. We have memories, a lot of very beautiful memories. For myself, I made a choice a long time ago. I choose to remind myself that through everything that has happened in the last 3 years, I am blessed. I still have much for which to be thankful. I was fortunate enough to have spent 4.5 years with a wonderful man who for 3 of those years, I got to call him my husband. He chose me. And I'm always going to mourn what we're never going to have, what we're never going to be able to share together. But I will celebrate what we weren't able to have, because every one of those moments count. I feel honored to have a beautiful child with Tim that calls me Mom. And she is our miracle baby in so many ways. I am grateful for the time that Tim and I were able to spend together as our own little family. While Tim may have been stolen, that time never will be. We are all thankful for the village of people that surround us all. They have supported us, loved us, upheld us in prayers and in their actions. Our families as a whole have been so very blessed by our communities. Tim and I were surrounded by a circle of friends comprised of incredible, inspiring individuals. They have endured my late-night, incoherent, sobbing phone calls in the beginning, staying night after night, been the listening ear for me. They dropped everything to comb through every possible road and street in this province when Tim went missing. For my daughter and I, they are our other family. We have unending gratitude to the teams of police officers, detectives, victim services, the Victim Witness Assistance Program, and those incredible Crown attorneys upstairs. They have all worked so hard to achieve justice for Tim. It is through their hard work and perseverance that we are here at this moment. It was their long days, long nights, and even longer weekends spent away from their families that we were able to achieve today's verdict. Words will never fully express just how much they are appreciated for just doing their job, which they have frequently told us they're just doing their job, but they have done it so well. Each and every one of them will forever hold a very special place in our heart. We also have an abundance of thanks for the jury. Each of them gave so much of themselves to sit on that jury for such a lengthy trial. Time away from their families, their jobs, and their daily lives to sit and listen and eventually to come to a judgment. I cannot imagine how stressful and difficult that this has been on them. We have prayed for them every day and will continue to do so as they re-enter their lives. May you all be blessed. Over the last 3 years, we had only begun to learn to rebuild, to learn to move forward, carrying Tim with us. Now the real work begins, because our story does not end here.
Millard and Smich were sentenced to life imprisonment with no parole eligibility for 25 years, but the investigations into the two were by no means concluded. As we mentioned, in 2012, Dellen Millard's ex-girlfriend Laura Babcock disappeared without a trace, and after the collection of evidence, Smich and Millard had since been charged with her murder. Additionally, evidence pointed to Dellen Millard as the suspect in his father's death. In the next episode, part 2 of the 3-part series, we'll learn more about the life and death of Laura Babcock. Then, in part 3, we'll uncover what happened to Wayne Millard. And that's it for Dark Poutine episode 317, Shadows of Deception, part 1, The Murder of Tim Bosma. What a wasted life. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway, we wanted to mention before we go to voicemails, episode 276, the shooting of Jacob Sansom and Maurice Cardinal. One of the killers, Roger Bilodeau, has just received day parole. And Sarah Sansom, who is the wife of Jacob, is in our lumberyard, and she's quite upset about that, of course.
Yeah,
of course she is.
It's you know my feelings about. I've shared them many times, Mike, about parole, and this one really hit my heart.
Yeah.
After we did that story, you inevitably feel a bit of a connection, even though we didn't know him.
Yeah.
Them, sorry, and I feel for her and her family, and I wanted to make sure that we let our listeners know that once again, somebody who's done something that horrible is out on day parole to be with his family when Sarah and her family, don't have their loved ones at home with them anymore.
Yeah.
And it's unfair and it's horrible, and something's got to change.
That's right. It's time for voicemails. You can leave us a message at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see who called us this week. Let's listen to our first voicemail.
Hello, Mike and Matthew. This is Elaine calling from Williams Lake, BC. I've been listening to the show forever. Mike, I was at the Rio for the live taping of episode 100, hoping that I can see you guys live again at some point. I'm calling today because I just heard Matthew's comment that it's okay sometimes to laugh at funerals, and that brought up this story. It was 1991. My grandmother had just passed away. My kids were 8 and 10 at the time. And we were taking the funeral home's limousine from Richmond into Burnaby to the cemetery, and it seemed to be taking forever. In the car was the, very staid limousine driver, my parents, my youngest sister and her husband, and my family. So we are driving and driving, and finally we come over a rise in the hill, and there's a cemetery, and somebody goes, "Oh, there it is." And my 10-year-old son pipes up, "People are dying to get there." Well, I thought the poor limo driver was going to drive off the road. His shoulders were shaking so bad. But it did break up a little bit of the tension. However, it was my dad's mom that had passed away, and Dad's in the car listening to his beloved grandson saying stuff like that. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. Love the show. Can't say you know what, so we'll just leave it at that. Take care.
There must be little ears about.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's I don't know. Mike, you've met members of my family, and you know that we are a very jokey sort of family, right?
Yep.
Having fun, always having a laugh, and it's how we deal with things sometimes is just via humor.
Yep. I mean,
yes. So I get it. I get it. It's hilarious.
I mean, that's how my grandmother's funeral, my dad's mom, she passed away in 1993, I believe. And so at the funeral, we walk in, my sister and I are sort of together, mom and dad are ahead. And I was expecting a full body, like a casket, but there was an urn at the front. And I turned to my sister and I said, "Well, I guess that's our grandmother, but I don't know how they fit her in there."
Oh gosh.
And everybody just sort of giggled a little bit. I mean, she was very, very old, and she'd been suffering for quite some time. So it was a bit of a relief when she passed away, because she wasn't in a good way for a long time. But anyway, let's move on. Here's our next voicemail. We heard from Lorne Novak, who was the brother of one of the boys on the tracks from that episode, which is interesting. He left his phone number as well, so we won't play that on the show. But it's interesting that he said it was a good episode, so we'll give him a call. He says he's got more info.
Yeah, let's do that.
Here's another.
Howdy, boys. This is Donnie from Pictou County, Nova Scotia. I got a couple ideas for future shows. You guys did the Hillcrest mining disaster there in, I think it was like somewhere in the hundreds, and you guys did the Empress of Ireland. I got a couple more ideas for a show. How about you guys cover the Westway mining disaster and the wreck of the SS Atlantic? Love the show. Go take a shit in your hat, boys.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, we did cover both of those, and those other two that you mentioned are definitely on the list to do. So we may be doing a disaster episode here pretty soon.
Or two.
By
the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah.
That's it for this week's voicemails. Again, you can leave us one at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you, even if it is just to say hi and to tell us to go shit in our hats. If you're stumped for what to chat with us about, a quick story is welcome.
Next, we have patrons and donut money donors. We don't have any patrons, but we do have two donut money donors. We have Helen Stubbs, whose name I recognize for sure. Donation for most excellent Canadian podcast, from Helen in Napanee, Ontario, right by the prisons that hold so many of your podcast protagonists. Ugh, I don't work there. Nice, I guess. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Very much appreciated. What do you think, if she doesn't work at the prison in Napanee, Matthew, what do you think she does there?
Well, she doesn't do anything anymore because she had a #1 hit song in the 1970s.
Oh, what? Pray tell. What was it? Was it, what genre was it, #1?
So it was pop.
Okay.
Yeah, and the song was called Mutt of the Month.
Mutt of, okay. I guess somebody, if you can find that, have a listen.
Yeah, and she was singing about her boyfriend cheating on her.
Oh dear.
And she called each woman the Mutt of the Month.
There you go. Well, there you go.
I can't believe you don't know that song.
I don't know that song. Next, we have Angela Marie Wesselink, and Angela Marie doesn't say where she's from, so we'll figure that out. But she says, money towards cleaning all of the shit out of your hats. Love your podcast. Thanks. So
that's what we need instead of donut money. It's like dry cleaning bills.
Dry cleaning our poopy toques. So Matthew, let's see where she's from. I think you have that information there.
I do. She's actually from near you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, what town do you live in again?
Langley.
Yeah. So she's from the other one,
Abbotsford.
Yeah, she lives in Abbotsford,
which is actually quite a ways away,
right? And her last name sort of gives it away. She actually, it's a family name. Westlink.
Okay. Westlink. Okay.
Yeah, so Westlink trains, you're going to see them coming through, connecting all the towns soon. So she's building a new train system.
That's good.
Yeah.
We need more trains. I'm all for more trains.
Absolutely. She's the Westlink Empiress.
There you go.
Thanks to all our patrons and Donut Money donors, past and present, for your generosity. It helps to keep the show going. You can become a patron of Dark Poutine at patreon.com/darkpoutine. For a one-time donation, you can send us donut money via PayPal using our email address, darkpoutinepodcast@gmail.com. If you don't already subscribe to the show, it would mean a lot if you did. You can easily find Dark Poutine on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you haven't gotten yours yet, my book, Murder, Madness, and Mayhem, is available to order via a link on the Dark Poutine website. And speaking of darkpoutine.com, please check it out for show notes and other cool stuff. We'd appreciate it if you took the time to give Dark Poutine a like or a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Most importantly, thank you for listening, and tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is a powerful thing.
And that's it for this episode. So until next time, don't forget to be a good egg and not a bad apple.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.